This video I chose 3 random inside out emotions, so comment down below which characters you think they are. Bye! So I saw Inside Out 2 on opening weekend, and let me tell you, it was great. So I decided to make some drawings inspired by the emotions inside of Riley's mind. In this video, I only made 3 characters, but if you guys want me to keep going with this series, I can keep on going. And I can make a few other videos about the rest of the characters if you guys want to. So this is part 1. Without further ado, let's get into it. So the first character we're going to be starting with is Joy. So basically Joy, I think, is one of my favorite characters inside of Riley's mind. I love that she's really bubbly and positive and everything, and when I saw the movie I just got like really happy vibes because I just remembered how I was watching the original movie back when it came out and seeing her character, which has become one of my favorites really. So for Joy, I started out by sketching her out using a brush, a purple brush, which is what I use to sketch most of my drawings. If you guys see my work on other videos or other drawings, you can see that I use purple for some reason, and I just really like using purple for it. I don't know why. So for her sketch, I focused on maintaining that happy vibe, that happy, bubbly vibe. So I made her smile, and I just made her cute, big eyes, but like smiley with the little lines in the bottom and everything. I struggled a bit with the hair because my drawing is 2-dimensional, and Joy's hair is kind of like a spiral, I guess. Not like a spiral, but like a cone, I guess. And it was just a bit difficult for me. I wanted to maintain basically the personality of each character within the drawing, so that's what I really emphasized a lot of their expression and made sure it vibed with how the character actually was. I tried to keep the drawing like very peppy and very colorful and very nice, I guess. I made these drawings only for like, I guess I could say like a little up the shoulder drawing, I guess, just to kind of like show a bit of their shoulders and their face, which is the expression which I'm mostly focusing on. So basically this is just a redraw of the characters, but in my style, which is a lot more, I guess, 2D, a lot more exaggerated, a lot more comical, I guess, but still with the cutesy vibe, which I like to use for most of my characters, which they have like the big eyes, which Joy already has in the movie originally, but yeah, they have like different personalities, I guess. Okay, so now moving on to the liner, and the liner is a part that is very hard for me, so I tend to put the stabilizer a bit higher because it's a bit hard to do the liner without the line looking wonky, and I like my lines to look very, very smooth. So what I actually do for the liner is that I make the line thicker for the outside, so I put a thicker brush, and I use like the pressure sensitivity on my pen tablet, and I just make the lines thicker on the outside, and then I put the brush on a bit of a lower and smaller brush, and on the inside I do it like a bit thinner lines, I guess. What I love about using a pen tablet is that you actually get pressure sensitivity, which is something that is very important for me, as I have, say, a very cartoony style that is very focused on the line, because a lot of people have a more realistic style where they don't really use lines, I guess, but my drawings usually include line art, so that's why I like using like thicker brushes on the outside and emphasizing the line art, making a smooth line art, making sure it looks really, really nice. And I like it when you do like curves and stuff. For example, for the hair you can see here, I like for the tip to be thinner and then the inside to be thicker, if that makes sense, I guess. Another reason why I like making thick liner is because when I fill in with color, it's a lot easier. Okay, so I just need to grab my paint bucket and fill, and it's just a lot easier. So that's why I like using like a thick liner, so it doesn't have any problems for the paint bucket to really work. And usually I also like changing the color of the liner, but when I start doing the liner, I always start in black, and then I change it to the color based on the rest of the colors, so it looks more harmonious, I guess. And I'd say for me, the part that takes me the longest actually is the line art because you just have to be very careful and I do undo a lot of times. So yeah, the line art takes me like a really long time to do. Okay, so now I'm actually starting with one of my favorite parts, which is the flat color. But basically, I like this part because it's a lot easier to do, I guess. It takes a lot less time, so that's why I really like doing the flat color because you just kind of put the colors. But actually, for this drawing, it took me really long to do the flat color because I couldn't get to match Joy's skin to the exact shade, and that really bothered me because she either looked like really dark, which I didn't really want that for my drawing because I know that Joy's color is very bright, so that's what I wanted to like emit, and it wasn't working with any shade. It either looked pale or something. Now over here I am starting with the shading. So I really like doing the shading because what I do for the shading is basically very simple. But I grab like the purple color I use for sketching, and I like using purple for sketching because I don't know, I think it looks really nice whenever you put it on multiply. It looks like really nice and it makes everything a lot colder, I guess, but not too cold as when you use like blue shading. It looks just warm and cold at the same time. I don't know how to explain it, but that's like the vibe I try to go for all of my drawings. So with Joy, I used a lot of shading. So I shaded her eyes a lot, which I don't tend to do that much, but I decided to shade quite a bit of her eyes and make them a lot darker, so I guess the highlights could be popping more, I guess. And this basically takes me quite a bit of time. So what I do for the shading is that I just grab my brush, as I said, and grab and put like lines everywhere, and then I fill them in. And that's basically what I do for shading. Then I just put like the layer on multiply and lower the opacity to like 50%. And then it gives this nice effect of shading. Plus, I also started doing like little gradients and stuff and everything, so it looks really nice. I did a gradient so it gives it more depth and to add more darkness and stuff. And I also tend to change the color for the line art over here because I've kind of gotten the vibe by this time. I've gotten the vibe of the drawing, how the colors blend in, so I picked like a color for the line art by this time. And yeah, that's basically what I do. Gradients, shading, liner, color, change. That's what I do. So over here, I'm really getting into the gradient, and as you can see, I tend to, when I do the shading, the regular flat shading, I use this purple color, but whenever I do the gradient shading, which I do in a separate layer, what I like to do is I like to pick a color that really pops but is dark from the drawing. So for example, in Joy, we can see three main colors, which are green, yellow, and blue. But especially blue, there's quite a bit of it despite Joy being yellow. And blue is a dark, well, it's not dark, but it's like a cool tone. So that's what I like to use for the gradient shading. So I tend to just grab the little gradient tool that is already in Krita, and keep in mind all of these shading and gradient layers, I do them with my little clipping mask. That literally saves my life because then you don't have to go back to like erase anything that goes outside of the colors. I just use a clipping mask and everything. I just grab my gradient tool and quickly just boop, boop, here, there, and everywhere. And I just kind of add it where I feel like it needs a bit more darkness, I guess. And then I tend to lower the opacity based on how much darkness I want, how much blue, in this case, I want in all of the drawings. So that's what I tend to do. And with Joy, I kept quite a lot of the blue. So you can see that her dress that was originally green looks a lot less green because I kept a lot of the blue so that it looked more shaded shaded in what I wanted to really pop, where the highlights in her eyes that I was gonna add later, and plus her face, I wanted it to pop a lot. So that's why I added a bunch of blue. And in the eyes, I also added more shading with the gradients, so it looked a lot darker. So when I actually added the highlights, it would look a bunch brighter, I guess, and it would bring like more emphasis there. That's what I tried to do, at least. So now I like adding the highlights to the eyes, which is one of my favorite parts because it really brings the drawing to life. I swear, the highlights are like those little details that really make the drawing pop, and I like doing these types of highlights on Joy, especially because Joy is very glowy, very shiny, so I think it's really nice to add a bunch of highlights everywhere so that it emphasizes with less detail that her hair is actually glowing, like in the movie. So that's like a little stylized version to like show glitter for me, I guess. So that's what I do for her hair and for her eyes, and a little bit on her cheeks, like highlighter, like real life highlighter. So yeah, that's what I do for the highlights, and I guess now we are done with Joy. So that was the final product for Joy, and now we are actually moving on to Sadness. So Sadness is just kind of there, I guess. She's just kind of trying to get through life and everything, and I love that she played a major role in the first movie, and she still played quite a big role in the second movie. But I kind of dislike that she had to be separated from the rest of the emotions for quite a bit of time. You're gonna see in the movie. I'm trying to not give a lot of spoilers, okay? So I started doing her sketch, and I made sure her face was really cute and chubby and big, and I tried to keep her hairstyle as best as I could, and keeping big eyes on her, even though she is a bit of a sad girl and her eyes in the movie are actually a lot smaller than, say, Joy's. I still tried to make those big like puppy eyes for her so that she looked real cute, and I maintained a bit of a sad, confused expression on her, but not crying, just a bit of upset, I guess, just a bit vibing and sad through life and just living and just being for her. So yeah, and I made her jacket thingy that she's wearing, sweater thingy, extra chunky. So right now I am starting with the liner, and as I mentioned before, the liner is like one of the hardest parts for me, and what was really getting me off was this one part in her hairstyle that is just really hard to get because it's like a huge curve that I have to make, so I had to make it like connected, and I really don't like that. I really don't like when I had to like connect different lines. I like to do one big swoop, but it was hard to do for her hair because it's just a big curve that is like very straight and then curves here. So it was very, very hard for me to do for the hair. I also maintained her big lashes, and I was actually debating whether I should use the circle tool or just do it by myself. But I actually did it by myself, which I'm very proud of because it didn't look that bad. And the reason why I chose to do it by myself is because I just wanted it to look a lot more handmade, I guess. And also because there is not line fluctuation when using the circle tool, and I like my lines to look thinner and thicker, more realistic and everything, as I said before. So that's why I decided to hand draw it and not do it with the circle tool. But I already had like my little guide underneath, so it wasn't that hard to do. I maintained her big puppy eyes, she looked really cute, and her expression and everything, and she just looked adorable. And as I said before, thick lines on the outside and thinner lines on the inside for the line art, which I did over here. And then I did her sweater as well, which I made extra big so that it cushioned her little face, and it looked so adorable. I swear it was so cute. But yeah, over here right now, I am actually finishing finally the liner, which is a part that takes a lot of time for me. So that, yeah, then I'm gonna move on to the flat colors. So starting off with the flat colors, I know that Sadness is one of the characters that only has pretty much blue and white slash gray, I guess, for her color of scheme, while the other characters tend to include a bit more color, I guess. They have a bit different shades. But yeah, Sadness is just like kind of blue, I guess. So that's what I made sure to use different shades of blue. And for her hair, I wanted it to be a bit more of a purplish blue, while her skin a bit more of a light desaturated blue, which is what I used for it. I also made her eyes a similar color to her hair so that they were kind of like a matching, I guess, and so that they would be like pop from the skin, which was a lot lighter. And that was a stylistic choice because I think in the movie it's a lot darker, but it was hard to replicate that in 2D without the colors looking too similar and clashing too much, I guess. So that's why I decided to go for like those colors, I guess. That's what I did. So right now I'm gonna do the little liner coloring, and I like to color my liner as I said before, because it just brings the whole drawing together. So that's what I like to do. And what I was especially careful to do over here is not to color the actual glasses, which were originally black, and I was gonna keep them black, like the little line thing of the circle glasses. I don't know how that is actually called, but yeah, so I started doing that, and I also started the shading. So I just do like a bunch of lines and build them in, and I like the shading to go from back to from like back to front, I guess, and the light to be on the front, so the shading is like all around the character but not in the middle as much. Like, I don't know how to explain it, okay? I just kind of put it randomly sometimes. That's what I do, and I just don't really have much rhyme or reason to how I put my shading. And I just shade around pretty much everywhere, on her eyes, on her hair, on her skin, everywhere basically. On the sweater especially, I decided to do this little like wave pattern where it went like in and out and in and have like little waves. I don't know if you guys really get it, but I think it looks really nice, really cute, and it really emphasizes the shape of the actual sweater, that it's more three-dimensional, I guess. That's what I try to do, at least. And yeah, the shading took a lot of time. I usually don't take as much time in the shading as I do with, say, the liner, but for some reason it took me quite a while to do the shading over here, and I don't usually take that long to do shading. But yeah, as I say before, I use the same purple color for sketching as my shading because it just looks really good with any color. It just blends in so gorgeous and beautiful. It looks amazing. Like, oh my goodness. So that's why I always use that purple color. Then I just kind of like lower the opacity to 50% as I said before, and then put the multiply layer. And then I'm pretty much done with the shading, and I move on to the next step, which is one of my favorite techniques of shading, which is the gradient shading. And I love to combine my gradient shading with my regular shading because it just makes it pop and more three-dimensional and everything. And I just think it looks really lovely and nice, and it just brings more depth into the drawing, and it just looks very good. Then my favorite part, which is doing the highlights, and doing the highlights in the eyes is so satisfying. It's like the character is dead before I do it, and then boom, it's alive. And I just put a bit on the hair and everywhere else, on the cheeks and everything, which is what I usually do. And yeah, that's pretty much it for it. It's pretty much it for Sadness, and I think she looks really good. Oh, for Discuss, sadly, I don't have most of the footage of the drawing because I was making this drawing for the thumbnail actually, and I lost the footage somehow. I don't know what happened. So I just kind of like put the layers over here. I do the same process as in the other drawings I did. So I started with like the sketch, and then the liner, then the shading, and then the highlight. And I added a lot of highlights for Discuss. Hear me out. Like, it was highlighting. I added a bunch of highlights for her because I think it was like really, I don't know, it looked really nice on her because her in the movie it's actually her hair very like glittery, I guess. I added a bunch of highlights. So yeah, I just kind of went crazy with the highlights once I realized that the footage had been lost, sadly. But I just went crazy with the highlights, so I added a lot more for you guys to see. And on her eyes, on her cheeks, on her hair especially, I added a bunch. But yeah, this is how Disgust turned out, and I think she looks really cute and her expression really matches how she is in real life. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want a part 2, just let me know and I'll make it for you guys. Also a part 3 if you guys want. Maybe, I don't know, and I'll do the rest of the characters after, and I'll include the new characters, so that will be very exciting. So yeah, see you on my next video. Bye!